Today we are joined by the 15th ranked lightweight prospect in the UFC, Drew Dober. How are you doing, my man?
Fantastic. I just got done with my training for the day, so I got to put a shirt back on and enjoy myself a little bit.
Awesome, awesome. What have you been up to apart from the training? What's consuming your time?
Ah, oh man, not a whole lot. Just hanging out with friends and family as much as I can because of all the COVID restrictions. So, I mean, this year has been simple as better.
Yeah,
So, just small group gatherings and just enjoying what you can.
fair enough, fair enough. So speaking of COVID, 2020, we'll put that in the review mirror. It was a massive year for the whole world, right? And from a fighting perspective, ironically, you started the year with the first card, the first major card, and you finished the year with a clean two victories. When you think about 2020 from that perspective, the fighting perspective specifically, what stands out to you about the whole year?
The get it done mentality.
Yep.
It's the entire year. I mean, I had my fight in January, and it was like my camp went smoothly. The fight was fantastic. I got to see audience members and whatnot.
Hmm.
And then everything hit the fan, and it was we had the same goals in mind, but we had to figure out how to get that done. And I'm sure the UFC and even the fans were doing the same thing, which is we want fights to happen. We want to be a part of fights. We want to watch fights. Let's see what we can do to make this happen. So you just had to make decisions on a daily basis. You know, for me being a fighter,
Hmm.
I had to figure out when my fights were, if we were having them, where they were at, and even with this whole gym restrictions and stuff like that, it's like, where can I train? Who can I train with? And how can we make this work? And so it was kind of a blessing in disguise because, I mean, that's how my fight career even started. You
Yep.
know, growing up in Nebraska, where it's just like, if you wanted to train, if you wanted to fight, you got to figure out how, you know, when, where, who, why, and all that stuff. And this year kind of reminded me of how I started. And man, it's been quite entertaining.
Gotcha. And moving away from fighting, from a personal developmental perspective, did the pandemic allow you to take a step back and focus on anything that you kind of any holes personally that you wanted to plug?
Oh yeah. Well, the entire year I was thinking of this man, Diego Ferreira, who I was trying to fight the entire year of 2020. And, you know, him being a very good black belt in jiu-jitsu, I had to focus on my grappling. So the entire year, I've been focusing on my grappling defensively, offensively, and how it's going to mix in with my striking and my wrestling. So 2020 was a year of grappling for me.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so, yeah, in 2020, you were supposed to fight him in May and November, and they both kind of fell out. Did we ever find out why the November one was canceled, or not really?
Um, I think it was health reasons,
Yeah,
and that's the most I can give.
yeah.
Just health reasons on Diego's end, and then unfortunately health reasons on my end why we couldn't postpone it.
Understood, understood. And obviously, is this a fight that you potentially would like to look at in the future?
Yeah, yeah. Well, right now he's scheduled to fight Beneil Darouche,
Yep.
and so you know it's definitely going to be one of those things where I'm going to have my eyes on that fight, and then after my Islam fight, then I'm going to be, you know, if Diego wants to run it or whoever in that top 10 division wants to run it, but I definitely have my eyes on Diego still.
Understood, understood. And let's speak about that fight against Benil because I think that's been a marking chapter on your end. Ever since then, you've been on a tear, and stylistically, you know, the characteristics of your fighting style have more or less remained the same. What do you? Is there any switch that's flicked, or what do you attribute that to?
Yeah, yeah, a ton. For one, I've been a huge fan of Benil's for the longest time, and so when I got that fight offer, it was just like the excitement of, you know, I'm finally at the time he was in the top 10, but he's been in the top 10. You know, everyone knows Benil's name, and so this was my chance to compete against you know, a guy of his caliber. And if you haven't seen the fight, I did extremely well in that first round with my striking,
Yep,
to where in the second round, Benil had to change his game plan and really force that takedown to happen.
yep.
So I gained confidence that I can stand with anyone in the lightweight division. I'm very confident in that. And the only holes in my game is the grappling department. And Benil posed a lot of, I mean, he's one of the best jiu-jitsu players in the division,
Of course.
you know, and so he gave me some problems that I didn't really have an answer for. And I think my mistakes in the fight came from like a mentality I had with my grappling. So my striking and my jujitsu, my mentality wasn't the same. So I spent all of 2020, or all since the time I lost to Benil, how to adjust my mindset and my technique in my ground game to complement everything. So I'm very excited to finally fight a grappler of sorts, so I can showcase my development since that fight.
Understood. And in your most recent 3-fight streak, is there any particular fight that stands out for you?
Every single fight stands out for me. Every single fight, I try to take something from every single win or every single fight. And so, my last one with Alexander Hernandez, disregarding everything I learned in fight camp, but the actual fight in itself, it just showcased the necessity of patience.
Yep.
Being patient in the cage, looking for the opportunities. I was a huge entertainer in the fact that I'm just gonna make stuff happen. So I kind of bit my mouthpiece and went recklessly. So, but in my 30s and after having X amount of fights, I'm really developing patience. And when it's time to go, then I go.
That bite your mouthpiece and let it throw. Do you think that's curated from your Muay Thai background?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Muay Thai was just you stand in front of each other and then whoever falls, falls.
Yep.
Right. And then I get into MMA and the guys are doing other things other than just chin checking each other.
Yep.
So I had to develop a more strategic mindset.
Understood. Yeah, I think the fight with Hernandez was perfect because you came off two KOs relatively quick, and you were able to go through adversity, right? You were able to get up on the takedowns, mix it up, and adapt the game plan that eventually worked.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And then my goal is to get taken down less in a fight, but getting back up serves its purpose too.
Of course, of course. Tell us about the team elevation. Obviously, we wake up today to find out that MMA Junkie has awarded you guys the gym of the year, which is great because there's a lot of really competitive gyms out there. Surely that's got to feel good, right?
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. I think it's just we're finally getting the recognition we deserve. The reason I moved out here was, I mean, obviously there's talent in the fighters and the coaches and all that stuff, but what really separates us is the camaraderie,
Hmm.
the ability to try to make each other better. And it's not like like a meat factory where we're all just banging each other's heads and then hoping one of us will end up on top, right?
Yep.
We're not trying to win rounds here. We're not trying to win anything here. We're trying to make each other better. So whatever Curtis needs, Corey Sandhagen needs, Justin Gaethje needs, Alistair, like all of us, we consider each other brothers in here. So we're trying to really help each other out. And a beautiful example is during the pandemic, and I was training for my fight in May. Justin Gaethje was just coming in here and training with me
Hmm.
just to help me out for my fight.
Yep.
And so we were just sparring and training with each other. And then he gets the Tony Ferguson offer, and then he takes that one. So like, just because we look out for each other and we help each other out, it sets up better opportunities for all of us.
Yep.
And so Team Elevation is an incredible family, and I'm glad we're finally getting the recognition we deserve.
Understood. Understood. And obviously, talking about Justin, he's close. He's at the precipice in terms of the mountaintop. How does it feel to have, a competitor like him on your corner training every day? Does it give you confidence going into the ring?
Uh, yes, but not as much as confidence as one would think, because
Yeah.
Justin Gaethje and Islam Makhachev are not the same
Of
fighters.
course.
So, but I love being surrounded by like-minded people,
Hmm.
and they don't have to be like in the top five to be like-minded. Usman's doing some of his training out here, and that's fantastic. But the guys that truly make me better are not even in the UFC.
Hmm.
They're like in Bellator or regional promotions, and it's just we surround ourselves with like-minded individuals of constant growth, improvement, learning, like get better, and then just us testing each other out, and then still more learning and getting better. And it's fantastic to see the people at the top of the mountain, but
Hmm.
it's also fantastic to work with the guys that are climbing as much as I am.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. Absolutely. Talk to us about the other element of the fight game, which is the money. I'm always interested in the economics of that. And obviously, in COVID, having fights was really sort of difficult. How did you find, that money management component in 2020? Like, was it different? Was it more challenging? Did you have more time just to think about it?
Me as an individual, it was the best year of my career.
Yep.
So it was a little bit more relaxed for me. But I mean, we're independent contractors,
Mm.
so we got to learn how to budget. We get lump sums every time we fight,
Yep.
and it's not like consistent. You don't know when the next paycheck is, right?
Yep.
So we have to do our best to live within our means and budget our money. And, with 2020, like we had no idea if we were going to even have fights. So as a fighter, you got to keep that in mind with injuries and sickness and all this other stuff. The money you make now, like you don't spend it like, you can get more later.
Mm.
You just got to make sure that you budget and live within your means. So, and there are those people that are buying the big houses and the fancy cars, and there's a shelf life for all of us, and it's an early age. So definitely be intelligent with your money.
Absolutely. So look, let's talk about Islam and the fight. So there's history here because this fight was supposed to happen in 2016. So as the case with a lot of your fights, it comes back around, which is good. When you look at Islam as a fighter, like what do you see? Like,
Oh, he's talented.
yeah.
More so his sambo is incredible,
Mm.
and from what I've heard, his technique is actually even better than Khabib's.
Yeah.
So like as more as I got talent and technical fighter goes, like he's incredible. I think where he lacks is that dominant mindset. I think he's a very conservative or shy fighter,
Yep.
and so a lot of his performances, he wasn't really able to behave freely because he was kind of nervous or he didn't want to, right?
Yep.
So looking at Islam as a fighter, I'm extremely excited because he's like another version of Khabib, right?
Yep.
Technical, talented, and all that stuff. Now, where I'm gonna showcase my abilities is his shyness, right? He doesn't really like to stand and trade. He doesn't want to be uncomfortable. He doesn't want to be tired and all that stuff. And it's my job to exercise patience, but also make him very uncomfortable the entire fight. And if he does get a takedown, if he does, do things well, I'm going to get back up. I'm going to continue making him uncomfortable. And man, I'm gonna push him to the limit, and I want to see, how deep he can go.
Absolutely. Look, stylistically, he's a grappler and a very good one at that. He's American top team's greatest prospect now that Khabib has decided to lace him up. So you can be assured that element is top notch. From a fighter's perspective, when you break this down, how much of your focus is on combating his strengths versus focusing on yours when you look at a fight like this?
I think overall, not even just Islam, but any opponent, I acknowledge his strengths, but then I have to dismiss them, right? Like he's an incredible grappler, right?
Yeah.
But I can't worry so much about that, right? I feel like a lot of fighters make the mistake with Khabib where they focus so much on his wrestling that they don't really get to do anything else.
Yep.
Right. And so for me, I'm just focusing on myself. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. I try to fill my holes and I try to put myself in a position to implement my strengths.
Yep.
Right. So in my camp, I know he's 5'11", left-handed, really likes to wrestle and grapple and stuff like that.
Yep.
After I acknowledge that, the rest of it's all what I'm doing. What am I doing with not only my striking, but with my wrestling, with my jiu-jitsu, and how I'm blending it all back and forth. So I focus majority on myself because also, case scenario, he might not even make it to the fight and they have to do a last minute replacement.
That's
and
true.
I have to fight some other person. So
Yep.
I worry less about my opponent and I just worry about what I can do.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that because a couple of years ago that was not even a factor, but now it's such a real thing, right? You do think about your opponent, but at the same time you've got to focus on what got you to the big dance initially, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's unfortunately the career of MMA. Opponent changes, location changes, date changes. Nothing is consistent, so you just got to roll with the punches, literally.
Literally, yeah, of course. Look, and not that you ever want to discount your opponents, and I'm sure you're not. Playing this forward, assuming a victory, because nothing is ever assumed in this world. Where do you see the next steps? Surely a victory there gets you in the top 10, right? You'd think.
Right. You would hope. You'd hope. The rankings are just a popularity contest.
Yeah.
And so it all depends on how popular I become after this fight. And that all depends on how the fight is finished. If I got a first round knockout, yeah, popularity will soar. But if I win by decision, then it's like, who knows? I might just fight like an 11 or a 12 guy next.
Yep.
And so I'm a firm believer. It's not who you fight, it's how you fight.
Yep.
And I'm here to make things entertaining and make things fantastic. And I'm here to get popular. That's why Conor McGregor is always going to be in the mix, because
Yep.
he's popular and exciting. That's where I want to be. So next, after this fight, that's up to the UFC. Honestly, I think for me, I just want a career of amazing and exciting fights.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter if it's the number 1, number 2, or number 3 guy. It could be an unranked guy, as long as I'm getting into the cage, staying active, being entertaining, and being closer to the fans.
Understood. And this element of being popular, promoting yourself, how would you describe the Drew Dober brand to people that don't know you?
Oh man, my ridiculous shirtless photos on Instagram. I'm weird, and I'm just embracing that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just doing anything that pops in my head and just going out there. Honestly, I believe in marketing yourself.
Yeah.
You got to be authentic with yourself. You got to be true to yourself. You just turn the volume up.
Yeah.
And so I just had to accept the fact that I'm weird. I'll post like the attractive selfies and whatnot that my fiance helps me with, and that's the kind of the brand I do. But outside of that, respect, integrity, the true meanings and values of martial arts, I want to showcase that as well.
Yep.
And what everyone wants to see, which is that blood, sweat, and tears, right?
Yep.
I get in the cage, I put everything out there, and I will make fights exciting, regardless of winning, losing, and all that stuff. Obviously, I want to win, but at the end of the day, we're also entertainers, and I love doing this for the fans. So that's what my brand embodies.
Gotcha. Very succinct. I like it. So last one, we've in this month we've got a massive event, right, with UFC 257. I know you've already gave your predictions, but like obviously the lightweights are the kings of the show. How do you see the fight between McGregor and Poirier going?
I think God, I'm so bad at calling fights, especially with both these guys.
Yeah.
But however, if I'm gonna shoot a prediction out there, I would say Conor McGregor is gonna find the chin in the later rounds.
In the later rounds?
I think Poirier, yeah, not later as in like the championship rounds.
Yeah.
I'm talking about round 2 or 3.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Right. So that's where Dustin Poirier is going to play it safe and be cool because he remembers the last one. But I think Conor is going to come in with a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, and he's going to be able to find that chin. From what you see, like Conor hits, like he has a one-hitter quitter. So
Yep.
he's gonna connect with that chin. You're gonna drop, and I just don't see Dustin Poirier avoiding that left hand for 5 rounds.
Understood. And what about Chandler and Hooker? That's an interesting one.
I have Hooker winning this.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with Hooker and his style and all that stuff. And, I'm not a true believer that Michael Chandler is going to be a wrecking ball when he comes into the UFC. I think in Bellator, he's shown some struggle, right? And, man, the UFC roster is talented, incredible. And you're pulling Dan Hooker for your very first fight.
Yeah.
That's a tough pill to swallow. So I have Hooker winning. Decision.
Yep. Fair enough. Tell us, mate, last one. In your mind, when all is said and done for 2021, where do you see yourself?
At the end of 2021,
Yeah.
surrounded by my fans, hopefully.
Yeah.
Just surrounded by all you guys.
Yeah.
Meet and greets, pool parties, just being able to sit back and drink with you guys after everything's done and over with, right?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like I'm still fighting, I'm still competing, I'm still training, right? But you guys are the ones that I feel like neglected from. So at the end of 2020, I see myself with success,
Yep.
comfort, and honestly, I don't really think too much of like outcomes of like being ranked number 8 in the world or 7 in the world or 6 or whatever. But I'm going to put together 3 fantastic fights for you this year, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I can celebrate them with you guys.
Of course. Speaking of fights, which do you prefer? Obviously, it sounds like you prefer it with fans, but without the fans, was it dramatically that different for you?
No, not during the fight.
Yeah.
The UFC actually did a good job of like doing the lights and the music and stuff like that. But once you're in there, you get focused. It's just me and my opponent, and that's the end of it. Where it was super unfortunate was as I exited the cage,
Yep.
I even like went in to like celebrate with everyone, but really it was only UFC staff
Yeah.
members, and then afterwards you get shuttled back to your hotel room. And so my post-fight party was just eating snacks at the hotel lobby.
Fair enough. Well, Drew, thanks for your time. We are really excited about 2021 for all the fighters, especially you, and we're looking forward to the fight in March with Islam. We wish you all the best. Thank you for joining MMA
Thank
Live
you so
TV.
much.
Awesome.